the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone. At this time, Jenny, if you take the roll.
Councilmember Carson?
Here.
Councilmember Peterson?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Here.
Councilmember Cole?
Here.
Mayor Ferland?
Here, quorum is present. This time we do have a presentation, and that's the mayoral proclamation declaring POW MIA Recognition Day in North St. Paul, and I'll quick read that for you. Whereas the POW MIA Recognition Day is observed in honor of all Americans still missing in action or possible prisoners of war in wars and conflicts engaged in by the United States military. And whereas we have a new number here, 1,584 Americans are still missing and unaccounted for from the Vietnam War, as well as 7,745 from the Korean War, 126 from the Cold War, and 73,054 from World War II. The thousands from World War II are assessed as unrecoverable deep-sea losses. And whereas the families and friends of unaccounted for United States military personnel, as well as countless fellow veterans and other Americans still await recovery of remains or clarity regarding their fates. And whereas the United States POW MIA flag states a sacred and clear message embodied in the words on the flag, "You are not forgotten." And whereas the Department of Defense POW MIA accounting agency provides some funding and resources to accomplish the mission of accounting for our unreturned veterans, to signal to the world that the United States stands behind those who serve. And whereas the City of North St. Paul supports and shares our nation's commitment to account as fully as possible for Americans still missing and unaccounted for from past wars and conflicts. Now therefore, I, Terrence Furlong, Mayor of North St. Paul, do hereby proclaim September 22nd, 2022 as POW MIA Recognition Day in North St. Paul and commend its observance to all citizens. And I do additionally urge our residents to pause and give homage to our POW MIAs, a National POW MIA Day, which will be on September 16th, 2022. Signed, myself. Thank you for all allowing me to read that. We also have our POW MIA Parade September 22nd, and that will be starting at the VFW and marching on down to the Veterans Park. So at this time, I will motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cole,
Second.
second by Councilmember Peterson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. This time, we have the consent agenda, and I'll turn it over to Interim Manager Frandl.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a long list tonight. Consent agenda A is the August 8th, 2022 special city council meeting. B, the August 16th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Item C, August 23rd, 2022 special workshop meeting minutes with the budget. Item D, general claims of $2,042,087.90. Item E, HRA claims of $476.47. Item F, EDA claim of $9,150. Item G is approve the tobacco license. Item H, community center, the next step. Item I, special event, annual POW MIA walk. Item J, special event, Fallen Angel, end of summer party. Item K, special event, wine tasting event at Silver Lake. Item L, special event, Church of St. Peter's Fall Festival, September 16th through the 18th of 2022. Item M, 7th Avenue, Margaret Street Downtown Improvements, change order number 2. Item N, City Manager Employment Agreement. Item O, resolution appointing Brian Frandl as the responsible authority for our Data Practices Act. Item P, resolution approving authorizing signatories for the City of North St. Paul. Item Q, Fence Consortium Joint Powers Agreement. And item R, authorizing the statewide Public Works Mutual Aid Pact.
It is a long list.
It's a long list.
So at this time, Councilmember can pull an item if they want to do so at this time. Councilmember Thorson.
Can I pull more than one? I got H as in hockey, M as in money, N as in no, Q as in quiet, and the last one R.
Anybody else? If not, motion to approve the consent agenda without H, M, N, Q, and R.
So moved, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Wong. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. At this time, the meeting open to the public, and I do have a couple here. John Schmall. And we do ask that we keep the comments limited to 3 minutes per person. And while the city council may ask clarifying questions of the speaker, no formal action by the city council or discussion will be held on these items. John, welcome.
I accept your welcome. John Schmall, 2750 Chisholm Avenue, North St. Paul. Just to let you know, I hope that doesn't go on the 3 minutes, there isn't a internet connection. For the first time in maybe 3 years that I've been coming here, so the one agenda that is printed is in the possession of Don at this time. So there is no other chance for anyone else to be looking at it as you go through it. So we're back to the old days. No, we're even in the worse days than the old days. Since I am the only person who has attended any budget meetings, I think I have the right to make a comment about said budget meetings. The last one you had brainstorming. And I was just completely put off by one of the brainstorming items, which was a property tax for the city of North St. Paul. The amount of the property tax would be 0.5%. And one of the items that you could use as, hey, what would it bring in to take care of this cost? And the cost was, wasn't brought up, but it was my own analysis of it. It was the extra public works worker, cost of $116,000, benefits and salary. In order to have the tax cover that, you would have to have $23,200,000 worth of sales to apply the sales tax to. So do you think that this city would even hit that number, $23,200,000? It's a pipe dream, a total and absolute pipe dream. And if you want to see what goes into making this kind of a request, just Google Bloomington sales tax and see what they have gone through in order to try to get this in place to apply it to that great mall in the sky called whatever it's called. And they didn't get approval for it from the legislature. So they're right now dead in the water. They can't even get it through. So then you have to have the people vote on it. So anyway, and it just seems like after talking about the other cities and what they're looking at as a levy increase, North St. Paul doesn't want that levy increase, but they want to use other sources of money, like franchise fees and all these other things that certainly are going to come from the pocket of the citizens of North St. Paul, but it's not going to be called taxes. Read the qualifications for the city manager. Said a master's degree was required. I just read things. That's all I do, is I read things, what you put out. And that obviously wasn't a requirement. So I guess you can take qualifications, print them up and all that. When it comes to the decision-making process, you go, we don't care. I had to write these things down. The LexisNexis is back as of Thursday. All the listings of the police reports are now active like they used to be for I don't know how long. one of the interesting things, though, about it is that during this period that it was off, one of the incidents that I became aware of, I was having a roof put on. So I stayed in the house, and there was nail guns going. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything until my neighbor the next day said, "John, did you see what went down yesterday?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Man, there had been at least 10 SUVs in the neighborhood up the street on Chisholm, and they went into the house at a particular address, and he said to me, my kids were watching from their bedroom, and they came out and they had the perps in handcuffs, and they did a perp walk into the SUVs. So there was nothing on this, obviously because of the LexisNexis being down or whatever you want to call it. So I had to, they know, I've tried to tell them, the neighbors, you want to know about crime, go to LexisNexis. Well, it wasn't available, so I had to do something that said, what was this? And it took me a while to find out that it was a Washington County Drug Task Force raid on this house. So I don't even know if you knew about this, but I didn't because LexisNexis wasn't available. And just last Sunday, there was a AOA report from Maplewood. They participated in something that we did, but our report wasn't there. It took until Tuesday for it to show up. And it was an incident at the Holiday store at South and McKnight. And I thought, what was this all about? So I had to call in and find out what it was. And I first went to the Maplewood Police Department. They said,
Try to wrap it up a little.
they said that they participated in it, and you'd have to go to your own agency to find out. And so I did, and I was told I couldn't have the report. It was still open. And I said it was had to be an interesting situation because they had on the AOA report, they had 4 Maplewood officers participating in besides the person who wrote the report. And when I said to them, this has got to be an interesting report, they said, because of the number that participated, and she said, that's not it, and that's not all of it. There was White Bear Lake Police Department involved. So I have no clue what that is. And lastly, I sent a email request into both Jenny and Dan about the explanation of the process on an email that I got that said for details, it was a click, it was a link, and it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work on my devices, it wouldn't work on my PCs. I've never gotten an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff King? Welcome, Jeff.
I'm here about, I was one of many people in North St. Paul that suffered hail damage, and I had to get my roof done. And I actually was in a medical boot at the time, and they did my roof, and I had a cupola on my garage, and they took it off, and they covered the hole with nothing. They didn't put any boards down, and I realized that there was this big hole and this big problem, and then I put it on, I did a nasty, and I put it on social media, and I got the owner to come out the next day, and I got him to fix the problem. And then once I was, a little bit later, I was able to get my boot off, and I was able to get up and look at the roof. And the building permit that I signed for, was for a building permit and inspection. And if you look at the pictures of what is in the envelope that they looked at when they approved the inspection, there's 5 pictures, and it's all just felt and just the ice barrier, and there's no shingles on the roof whatsoever. So, and when they come out to do the inspection, none of the city of St. Paul inspectors even have a ladder with them. They come out in a compact car. They look at this picture here that's not complete, and then they sign off on the inspection. And so I'm paying for an inspection that really does not happen. And that's pretty much all that I have.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're working with City Hall on this?
I had the building inspector come back out a second time after I called them back up, and they came out and they looked at it after the shingles and everything were on it. And there were some parts that were incomplete, and he told me that was pretty much a contract issue, which I know I really couldn't dispute too much. But then we found some other stuff with what he called shiners, where some nails that were exposed and not covered, and he says, if he wants, he could have the building or the builder come back and fix it if you want. And I told him at that point, I said, no, I don't want him to come back because I don't want to work with him anymore. And I actually fired him, and I got a different builder, and I got somebody else to finish the rest of the work. So, you know, I was disappointed in the building permit process and the fact that they signed off on an inspection that they didn't do. They flat out did not do. And that's the city St. Paul, North St. Paul process, and I think that it needs to be altered.
And we gave, the address is 2800 Longview Drive?
Yes, and there's a good major part of the city that's got hail damage right now. So there's,
I think almost every house got,
yeah, so
hail
this is not a just me issue. This is everybody. I'm not here for me because I'm already done with mine. I'm here for other people right now, so,
oh, okay. We'll make a note of that.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Anybody on Zoom? So at this time, city business action items and recommendation, we're going to add H, M, N, Q, and R. The first one is A, downtown furniture guidelines, and I'll turn over to interim city manager Frandl.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just informational. It's what Brandy had already gone over with her review earlier. And it's just following the guidelines set forth by the North St. Paul Planning Commission regarding outdoor downtown furniture. It says if a downtown business wishes to have outdoor seating furniture, it must be durable, commercial grade versus residential, made of weather-resistant materials such as wrought iron, cast iron, aluminum, or lumber grade HDPE plastic. And then it just gives some examples and some pictures of what that entails. So it's,
Do we need to formalize that? Is there a motion for that? I guess I'm
I'm not seeing a motion.
So I'm assuming you want clarification whether or not the city's approving the standards for the outdoor patio
Or commercial grade.
for commercial grade. So I guess I will entertain a motion for the commercial grade patio furniture that is going to be allowed downtown.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
I'll second it, Your Honor.
second by Councilmember Peterson. Any questions? Councilmember Thorson.
I'm assuming that this list, it says made of weather-resistant materials such as, that's not an inclusive list, those are just examples.
That's correct.
So this is more vague, general. Whatever they're gonna use, they're gonna submit in their plan and that gets reviewed, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, motion's there. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number H would be the community center, next step, and I'll turn it over to Councilmember Thorson.
Yeah, I pulled this one just because I do not consent. All due respect to Dr. Waldron and the work he did. I was kind of expecting to see some report that had statistical data and analysis and the big answer to the question of we don't know what this facility, the future will be, maybe some, to answer that question, or to get more direction on that. If there's partnerships such as the YMCA with the former Maple Community Center. So, you know, I was trying to stay optimistic and open minded and possibly, you know, changing my stance of thinking that we shouldn't go down that path and just sell the building. But So I pulled it to vote no.
Okay. See if I have the motion here. I don't think it's in the general meeting here. I do have it. We have it in the workshop. So if you give me a second, unless, Craig, if you want to give the recommendation and we can vote from that.
Thank you, honorable members of the council. Basically, you're just authorizing us to negotiate with Wald and bring you back a management proposal from them to move forward with the next step. So just authorizing us to work with Wald and bring you back a proposal.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is to move forward with Wald and bring back recommendations as discussed in the workshop.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Yay.
Motion carries. Number M, give me a second here. The problem with computers here. So M would be the 7th Avenue, Margaret Street, downtown improvements, change order number 2. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Thorson.
Okay, so I pulled this one, just, anyway, it has to do, and apologize, I don't have my laptop. It's not connecting the Wi-Fi, but when I read this, I was looking over it, and it seems like this change order has to do with specifically the landscaping downtown, correct?
It's the landscaping, yes, it is.
Okay, and part of that, there was an estimate to remove concrete so they could install irrigation lines. And, there was a cost, an initial cost estimate. It looks like, this change order isn't, in our favor, it's costing less. But I know it seems like that's been the holdup here. We haven't, there's nothing in there just because we're waiting on, I don't know if it was a decision or a funding or whatever, but a big part of this was installing irrigation. And I understand that plants need water and trees need water. I object to the fact that we need to install irrigation. We have various areas throughout town that don't have irrigation. If you choose plants that are hardy, initially when we install them, we'll probably have to have Public Works go down and water them with the water truck. That's nothing out of the ordinary that we haven't done in the past in areas that do have irrigation. But I just think, in the respect of getting this done and moving along and saving money, why don't we just take that aspect out? We just don't have dedicated irrigation lines in between us initially watering it after it's installed and just rainfall events, then we can get landscaping down there. So that's why I pulled it. I would assume that, that's probably not gonna be a popular opinion, but that's what I recommend, is that we advance forward without the irrigation aspect of it.
Oh, okay, Councilmember Thorson, I believe the landscaping contractor probably wouldn't put the plants in without irrigation. I don't think they would.
Okay.
I don't think he would guarantee them. They have to guarantee them for a year when they put something like that in. So I believe it's required for that to happen, for this contractor doing that one.
And how much concrete is gonna need to be removed?
They just have to remove some panels. This is from the previous contractor, or Mid-State Contracting, them missing, not putting the sleeves in for the irrigation that was pulled out at the beginning of the project. He missed those so when the irrigation and the plants got pulled out of that project, the contractor just assumed all that was taken out. Or he wasn't responsible for anything. But the engineers put sleeves in for future irrigation, which he missed. So he's got to pull out some panels in town so they can bore in the sleeves that they need for the irrigation.
All right, thanks for the clarification. I must have understood then.
Okay.
And that was part of the original,
Okay.
I believe, the original plans. To have that irrigation was adopted back when we first did.
It was, yeah, and then it got pulled out, and then, again, for these plants to be put in, any of the contractors that do that are gonna require the irrigation for it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for that? If not, the motion is to approve change order number 2 for the 7th Avenue Margaret Street Downtown Improvements Project and expenditure of previously budgeted city funding for said change order, contracted by Amcon Construction with Midstate Excavating. I have a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson,
Second?
Second.
Oops, sorry.
second by Councilmember Wong. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And we go to N,
Okay.
and that is the city manager employment agreement. Councilmember Thorson.
Okay, so I had a question on this. Earlier in the day, there was an item that was pulled. It was item 9. There was a clothing allowance for $1,000. And then it was changed, and now it's not included. I'm just curious what, I mean, was that just added incorrectly, or was that removed purposefully? And, you know, who, I mean, last time we had a negotiating committee, and then now this time there was, I'm confused on why that got removed, and now there's a car allowance that got increased from that original agreement that we saw this morning, and now this afternoon it changed. I'm just curious what prompted that change.
Well, now, do you know anything about it? I'm assuming it was from when Brian was hired, that that allocation was given to him previous, and that was requested, and then it was denied because the previous city manager did not have that. But all the other, I'm assuming all the other employees in their contract, union employees, have had that in the past. Would that be correct?
Specifically, it spells out the police chief, correct?
Okay. But now that's out, so it's irrelevant, but I was just curious as to what, you know, why that was changing kind of at the last minute here. The only other item here that I have question is number 12, automobile allowance. I understand that was something that the previous city manager had, and then in the past, city managers traditionally have. But if you look back in our history, it's something we used to have for not only our previous city manager, but also department heads. We did a rate study, and we got comments from that seemed excessive, and that eventually all the car allowances got removed from all department heads and city manager, but now it's back in here. And the reason I bring it up is just, you know, at $450 a month, it's $5,400 a year. And at the current IRS mileage reimbursement rate, which is now, they changed it mid-year, it's 62.5 cents. That's 8,640 miles a year, or 720 miles a month, that we're compensating you for travel that's city-related. I just think that's excessive. And I would think that a more appropriate inclusion in that would be if you incur travel that's work-related in your personal vehicle, that you're reimbursed at that 62.5 cents per mile, or, you know, put language in there that whatever the current IRS mileage reimbursement rate is. So every time they change it, we don't have to come back and redo the contract. That's just my input on this. Otherwise, everything else looks good.
And I believe the previous manager had an allowance,
$350 a month, correct?
the $350 a month. So I guess it's up to council if you want to keep it $350, or what was the new rate?
$450.
$450. I'm okay, you know, either way, $450 or $350, but I know, you know, previous that city managers have had that in their contract. So, any discussion? Leave it the way it is, the $450?
I'm fine either way. I was of the belief that, that
the car allowance and/or car has been something that the position has had ongoing. So I guess when I read it, it didn't set off any flags for me.
Councilmember Juan?
I certainly am familiar with the 62 cents per mile that the government, the federal government puts out on an annual basis.
I get 54 cents.
Has it been adjusted yet?
No, I get 54 for
Oh.
my own.
Oh, gotcha. But with that said, I mean, I think that, you know, that's a valid thing to look at, is the GSA rate that is provided. But again, I think I'm okay with 350.
Well, oh, sorry, just to clarify, what with 350 or 450, the current contract in front of us said 450. What I was proposing is we eliminate it and just replace it with, if you incur work-related personal mileage, you can be reimbursed up to the current IRS reimbursement rate, which right now is 62.5 cents. And, you know, we have city vehicles available, so if you need to travel during the day, there's a Chevy Volt that just sits there. I mean, I don't know how it gets a whole lot of use. We declared another Chevy Volt surplus because it didn't get used, to the point where it had maintenance issues. So that's where I'm just, if you're incurring this much travel outside the normal work hours, I mean, it just seems exorbitant, or just like, you know, that's a lot of miles. I'm not just saying someone who doesn't, I'm lucky to drive 10,000 miles a year total, because I just don't drive that much, and I have a short commute to work. But this also has nothing to do with commuting, just to clarify.
So I'm going to look at the city attorney. Is this something that is something that's typically not into a contract? Is it usually percent or a dollar amount, or is it the 62.5 cents?
I don't know historically with the city of North St. Paul, but.
Is your mic on?
Mayor and council, I don't know, historically what our practice has been here at the city. It sounds like we've had some allowance built in. Certainly, it's not uncommon to have a mileage at the federal rate reimbursement for work-related travel. I don't know, sitting here, I know Soren's probably worked on this contract, and so I don't know the ins and outs of the conversations about it. So we could certainly, potentially table this if we need to, or, make an amendment here on the fly. But if it's something we need to explore a little further, perhaps we just table the contract for tonight.
I think that in the past, we've had that amount in there, and it sounds like it was a 350 amount, and we're looking at the previous contract that we had with the previous city manager. So we were looking at consistency with that contract to this contract. So to me, it's, the 350 was in there, and why not keep it in there? Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor. I think the 350 is fair.
So right now, it's written as 450. If we were to change it to the 350, is everyone okay with that?
You could make a motion to, approve the agreement with the edit to 350 on section 12.
So the motion would be the contract, the employment contract, and changing from the 450 to 350.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The motion carries. Q, Fence Consortium Joint Powers Agreement. And I'll turn that over to Councilmember Thorson.
So I pulled this item along with item R, because I think they go together. Public Work, I know we kind of rushed along, but I was more curious as to what Public Works' opinion on their involvement in this is. I mean, if you care to comment, if this is something you're okay with and comfortable with, for one.
Yeah, like Police Chief Babinroth said, we had talked about this for quite a while. It's been kind of an ongoing conversation for the last, 6 months. I had talked with the Public Works guys about this early on. No one was really interested in it, just because some of the comments were, hey, are we gonna get thrown in, are we gonna be asked to put up a fence in the middle of a riot? And, we were, told that we wouldn't be in the hot zone, that we'd be protected with it. We have gone back and forth, with Phil and I talking, about how this would work, and how we would manage it in Public Works, because it's basically, my comment to him was that I want to be able to provide the service. If we're going to sign up for this, I want to be able to provide a person for this. Obviously, it's a Public Works mutual aid agreement that, they need for us to be in order to be part of this. It's going to be something that I'm gonna have to figure out on the Public Works side. I mean, if I have guys that are like, hey, I don't want to do this, or, I refuse to do this, I don't know that that'll be the case, for sure. I mean, normally when it gets down to it, the Public Works guys step up and take care of stuff. But it's something where, I had told the chief, hey, if the council and the city manager think this is something that we need to do, we'll take care of it. We'll do whatever we need to, to take care of this. I am both, I go both ways with it. It's an insurance policy for sure for us. Last time that we had something going on, we took our plow trucks and we stuck them around City Hall. We blocked off the entrances. We're sticking millions of dollars worth of trucks out there that could potentially get rocks and, things thrown through there. But it's definitely something that, I'm going to have two guys that, at least go to the training, just because it's not like I can have one guy dedicated 365 days a year. It's in talking with Phil, he's like, hey, if it works out that we don't have a guy available, that's just what it is. I just want to make sure that we can fulfill if we're signing up for this, that we can fulfill what we need to on this. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get why they, if we can make a phone call and in 3 hours we can have a fence set up, that takes a lot of, I guess, pressure off us for Public Works, or for, hey, what can we do, or how can we handle this? We had a short window, which was 3 hours last time, to deal with this, and we came up with something that would work. But if they were going to storm the building, there wasn't, we were limited on what we were going to, could do. So.
Were you going to be on one of those tractors and ready to go?
Hey, we'll do whatever it takes, to a certain extent.
Councilmember Peterson.
You still would be short-staffed, though. I mean, if you let two guys go,
So,
how would you cover that, Ron?
when I say 2 guys trained, I wouldn't send 2 guys. Our staff, we have 9 guys total. 11 guys with Randy and myself. 1 guy is on call 24/7, 7 days a week. So every week we have 1 guy that's on call to handle any emergency calls that we have for anything. So we have 8 guys. I wouldn't send that guy out on that. So it'd have to be another guy that we would send for something like this. The question with it, how often is it going to happen? Hopefully we don't have to deal with it for years. But it would be there'd be an element of another guy or 2 that would be, I don't know, in a way on call, or, hey, if this call comes in, I got to depend on a person or 2 for that to be part of that. I don't want to go into it going, well, hey, I think maybe we might be able to cover this. So, like I said, for me, if you guys, everybody thinks it's a good idea to do this and work with this, we'll figure out a way to do it. because I do think there's, you know, some value in it. It's like having insurance, you know, but like, again, I do have 9 guys to deal with, kind of everything that deals with, so 1 guy on call all the time and then a guy for that. You know, I don't foresee it being something that we're gonna be going out once a month or, you know, dealing with, but it's, you know, something that we gotta consider with that.
Thank you. Well, and I appreciate you being here, you know, answer that question. Because, you know, just another concern is that, you know, this is something new, and we're coming off a Labor Day weekend. The packets were uploaded Friday, but, you know, kind of enjoyed the weekend, and I'm reading this for the first time Monday, you know, this morning, basically, just trying to react, you know, and I get it, you know, this is it sucks that we even have to have the conversation about this. And it is like an insurance policy, but, you know, we have other, we can't just focus on one area. We have a whole city to concern ourselves with, and this kind of seems like it's falling in more of a want than a need. And that if we can use that money in another area within the police department or within the city that is more of a need than a want, then we're utilizing this money more effectively. And just, you know, I've brought this up before, it's like Public Works is the dumping ground for everything, you know, and you guys always do, you suck it up and you say, hey, well, whatever you ask of us, we'll do it. How often are other departments asked to do things at public, you know, I mean, it's, and again, I'm not trying to point fingers, but it just seems like it's always, you know, fires get involved with stuff, Public Works is helping out, you know, and it's great that we all try to work together, but it just seems like this is another thing on top of a list of things that's growing that just keeps getting added, that's essentially going to be taking away from, you know, because if they're gonna be asked to go do this, it's, hey, come in, you need to come in tonight at 3 a.m., you gotta go meet somewhere where you've never been, you're going into a hostile situation, potentially. We gotta set this fencing up as quickly as possible, and then get the heck out of there. They're gonna be away from their family, I'm sure, you know, yeah, it's, you know, any volunteers? No? Okay. We're drawing straws type of thing. So it just, these are sorts of things that are going through my head, trying to make a decision on a workshop topic that we have very limited time to digest and think about, and now here it is on the agenda to approve tonight. You know, have any questions? Well, this is why I pulled it. Wanted to see your opinion, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels. I mean, I'm not against it, but I'm also just feel like we need some more time to think about it. And if I do have other questions to bring it up, but yeah, it's like a insurance policy. If we're in it and other cities join, the cost will go down. You know, if we decide that maybe we made a decision in haste, I'm sure we can pull out. Or if we need more time to think about it, we can always join later. Was there some drop dead date here that we needed to agree to, or is this is just the first time we're hearing it? And
Yeah, I'm not sure on the date. I'm not sure if there's a date.
I can't speak for the direct date, but it is this year for the original founding members on the board or the cities. If you join after the original members, then you say next year, well, we table the issue for next year and discuss it then, or after this deadline. I don't know the exact date, like I said, but the Fence Consortium did state that they will then add a surcharge to backtrack what other agencies have paid for previous. Does that make sense?
yeah, so join now at this rate. If more cities join, it could go down, but if you wait,
Then it's gonna cost.
it's gonna cost
Then that
more.
higher
Okay.
buy-in.
Yes, then that 5,100 does increase.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could go either way, but I mean, I guess I'm just, you know, that's
No,
why I
it's good.
pulled it, to have additional discussion.
I think it's good discussion, you know, and that was my concern, and we have the Public Works here to ask those questions. You know, my biggest concern was, well, what happens if we do have an event here and we don't have this? How much time is spent, or how much risk to you guys? I mean, it goes both ways.
It does, it does. And like I said, I want to be supportive, you know, both ways. Like I said, Phil and I have talked about it a lot. you know, and what I told him is, I said, I support this 100%. My concern is being able, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make this work, you know, for guys that might not wanna do it, you know, or for my guys not wanting to, like, hey, I don't wanna, and the thing with it is, you know, the stuff that we need to take care of in Public Works, like you said, Councilmember Thorson, you know, we're more than happy to take care of whatever we need to in the city, you know, but, you know, we get an arts commission, there's an art cart, you know, we have an involvement with that, and this isn't something that, this is the stuff this is what our job is, this is what we need to take care of. So, you know, we deal with that, getting that in and out and taking that in, and that's great. You know, we have the Parks and Recs, the Recs Commission, and, you know, hey, we want to do this, we want to get new signs and new signage, and like, hey, we'll take care of getting those installed and doing that. I mean, that's our job. You know, any of the stuff that comes up, yeah, hey, Public Works can do this. We have a talented group of guys down there that can take care of a lot of different things, and we're more than happy to do that. So, you know, I want to support the police department in that. I want to, you know, in a sense for Public Works, this could be a benefit to us if, you know, Phil was here, I think, 2 days when we had the incident here, and he's like, hey, what can we do? What do we have? What can we set up? You know, we were driving trucks and stuff out there. So it is, I go both ways on it. So whatever the council and the city manager, what their feeling is,
Well, that was an alternative to haul the $250,000 plow trucks out and put, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I see, wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Like that was
you know,
something.
but we really don't, we have some, you know, for a lack of a better term, cattle fencing, you know, that's 4 foot high, that all that would do is kind of create a perimeter, you know, for it, you know, so it's.
And this was a perfect example of, we could have used that fencing at that time without using our plow trucks, without getting the Public Works, you know, more staff involved. Like you say, if it's a major catastrophe, if it's a huge major blow up, like I said, Minneapolis, St. Paul, I think we're in a different situation then. But if we're specifically, our area, something's going on, I think for $5,600, that's a cheap insurance policy to have. And we've already have experienced it.
Sure.
I do have one thing. The chief just texted me that the last approval date to get to be an original member is actually tonight for that date. So,
Okay, well, and I get that, you know, but it's just like, as a decision maker, I don't appreciate, and this isn't the first time it's happened, it's not the police, it's extremely frustrating when, you know, here it is, we're gonna talk about it a little bit and then go make the decision, and you feel like, are we rushing to judgment here? Have we vetted this out? How about a little time to digest it? You know, but okay, you know, now that now that we know a little more now, that an alternative to a fencing was we pull out, you know, our plow trucks that are, you know, $250,000 each, and, you know, yeah, $5,160. No big deal.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Councilmember Wong?
so my understanding is that you all are a union, so when you are deployed to do this, is there expectations or something around hazard pay? Because that is the expectation around those that are, you know, in the business, right? So, I mean, that's something to consider.
Yeah, and that's something that they could bring up in their union, you know, for that. That's something that could be, you know.
If it's triggered, something.
If it's triggered, you know, and these guys are saying, hey, wasn't in our job description, you know, yesterday, now after tonight it is, you know, I guess that's a bridge we'll have to cross when, you know, that comes up. And that definitely could, you know, be something that comes up.
I'm sure it will be, because it is something new that the union will have to look at. Good point.
Well, hopefully we never need to use it,
Right.
right?
Right.
All right.
Anything else?
Anything else? Does that include that other part then?
Well, I think can we just do one motion on both, or I
Yep,
guess?
so the first one is
Okay.
first one to be resolution adopting the fencing consortium joint powers agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilmember
Yeah,
Wong.
I would like, I was not clear that we were talking about both of the items, so if I may, I would like to have a little bit further discussion if nobody,
On
anybody
this
is-
item or the second item?
the consortium piece,
Okay, go ahead.
but not, because I think we were asking about the Public Works JPA.
No,
Um,
it was just a general. We're on item Q, so the fence control.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So, I mean, some of the questions I had brought up during the workshop, and so I did talk to city attorney to ask, some clarifying language around the guarantee in the agreement and what that actually entails.
Sure. There's, I wouldn't call them contradictory, but two provisions you need to hold in your head at the same time. So 5.1 talks about automatic deployment. So if there's a critical incident here in North St. Paul, and that critical incident is defined as civil unrest, the concept of the agreement is that the fence would be able to be deployed right here in North St. Paul. However, as the council's discussed tonight, there could be a scenario in which there are multiple cities wanting a fence at the same time. And so in 5.5, you have a provision that says there's no guarantee that you will get the fence. And that's ultimately, there's no liability to the fencing consortium if you don't get the fence. I also think it's just kind of important to acknowledge 5.3 as well, which is discretionary deployment. So that is a scenario where there's no critical incident, not necessarily civil unrest, but something that the city may have a need for the fence, I guess some lower level a problem. And then that, again, goes to that board that you were hearing about tonight, and they make the decision whether to deploy the fence. So it's discretionary on the part of the board under that provision. But ultimately, I think it's important to know that there's no guarantee that you will get the fence. But as the mayor had mentioned, we're talking about, $5,000 or so for kind of an insurance policy if it's there.
All right, thank you for that clarification. And then I do have a question that I didn't have the opportunity to bring up, but there was discussion about the legislature bringing on $5 million for the potential for this consortium. So how does that funding impact access?
So can you
You know.
repeat? So what's your question?
My understanding is that the legislature is to make a decision in 2023 about whether to allocate $5 million to the fencing consortium. Do you know how that will, apply to the fencing consortium following, because the deadline's tonight.
Yep.
$5 million might come later, so what does that mean?
So there's no guarantee that it's gonna be on the agenda for the state legislative next year. They're anticipating that they try to get it in for the 2022 year. It didn't make it. It didn't make it past the commission or the board. So they're gonna bring it up again next year. As far as that money is what is used to buy the actual fencing itself. So instead of all these cities pooling together money to buy that fencing, the state legislator will then, or the state will enact to actually purchase or buy more fencing if needed. Does that answer your question?
I believe so, thank you.
Who stores the fencing?
That is yet to be determined. I don't know exactly where. There's been a list of locations. That's something that the commission or the board, the consortium board will figure out. But it would be that was the big thing when the workshops were going on or the discussions were going on over the last 6 months to a year, it will be in Minnesota, because the majority of the fencing, even for like the Brooklyn Center disturbances, all that stuff comes from Chicago. So you're looking at an additional 8 to 10 hour travel time on top of just getting a regular fence.
And I'm assuming that it's gonna be stored here
Yes. I'm
somewhere.
sorry. So the fence consortium, it is said to have the actual fence, the anti-clam fence that we're talking about will be stored in the metro area, so it could be rapidly deployed within 3 hours of making a phone call. What I said about the Chicago is that was,
Previous.
that's previous. If you called and said, I need fencing, and you're not part of the fencing consortium board, that you have to add that time of 8 to 10 hours of drive time on top of the order.
Sure. Okay.
Well, it's probably not wise to disclose the exact
Right.
location or city, and let's please not volunteer to keep it here, somewhere else. We're only 3 square miles and we only have so much space.
It's not gonna be an Able Fence Company either, I don't think.
Would you mind staying? Thanks.
why I'm here.
So, yeah, earlier in your presentation, I'm just trying to clarify, there was a lot of discussion around the incidences that happened with George Floyd's murder and the civil unrest that followed, and then also the murder of Dante Wright and the civil unrest that followed there. So those are the two large events that kind of catalyzed, the need for this throughout the 7-county metro. Here, I think we're talking about more localized issues that may arise, or CIs, or what would you call them?
Similar to what happened previous.
Can you provide some context?
So what happened last year at the car show was more localized. It was something that happened that went through our city. It was a car accident, so kind of more localized than,
A car oh, right,
Yeah.
so, that's, okay. And then, so with that said, I mean, would that have been a situation in which that would have been, called upon for offense? Would we have called for offense in that situation?
Yeah, that would be the decision between the chief and the city manager and you folks.
Okay. Because the reason I'm asking is I'm just not sure the likelihood of needing that scale of fencing for our local protests,
So,
which differ from riots.
Yep, I get that. But for the reason why that the car show was eventually shut down and we scrambled and Public Works brought in their trucks is that we received information from a few different citizens that they were looking, that group that was planning to come to North St. Paul were looking to cause problems and destroy cars and destroy property and everything like that. That answers your question.
Yeah, so they were a group of like agitators or actors. They weren't necessarily the protesters there. They were just other people coming in to cause problems with a plan.
I don't know. I can't distinguish who's going to peacefully protest and then who's gonna throw cans of soup and rocks and destroy property and try and hurt people. Yes. So, like the thing that the chief and I want to say and Ron from Public Works also brought up is that you're using $500,000 vehicles when we can use a fence. It's an insurance. We don't plan on getting into car accidents. That's why we carry insurance. And it's very similar to that type of deal. Do we plan on using it? No, but when we need it, that's the question. It's either the joining the board where we can have that insurance premium that we pay for 1 year, or do we start, if we do need it, now we have to scramble and get quotes and and equipment and everything like that set up, and that's gonna carry over, into well over, I don't even wanna give you an estimate, but it's gonna be a lot more than just the $5,000. I mean, if you look at Brooklyn Center, it was just for 3 months, that was just the rental fee of 86. That wasn't on top of the installation and tear down and mileage and whatever other stipulations that the company put on to bring the fence.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
One follow-up question. I mean, I thought this was an annual fee. You just said it was one-time fee. Is this?
No, I'm sorry, it's a yearly fee.
Okay, all right.
I apologize if I
No,
misspoke.
that's fine.
I'm just grappling with the response that I had heard, so just not being able to differentiate, those actors that are aggressively, going after you, and then protesters. And, our job here is to protect the Constitution and our residents, and so being able to distinguish that is pretty critical when we're talking about First Amendment rights, and so I'm just trying to grapple with that answer.
But that's why we're stressing is that it's a barrier, and it's a hard barrier that we would like to use in the event that something happens, to allow people to use their First Amendment rights, to use their freedom of speech. But it's not towards them, it is towards the agitators to say, listen, they have a hard fence, we can't break that down, we can't go after that, so we're not even gonna try. It's a visual deterrent is the main goal of it.
Thank you.
So I think I think I understand the point you're trying to make, Councilmember Wong, is you're saying, given that, let's use that example because it just happened here last year. There was a protest that was planned, and the police were acting on credible evidence that it could potentially turn violent, and that they specifically stated, let's go down to North St. Paul and smash up the classic cars and take it down there. So the decision was made to just cancel the car show to eliminate that opportunity. And it was a tough call to make. I recall the phone call. Because after, nothing ended up happening. Great scenario, but then everyone questioned, well, why'd they cancel it? What the heck? You're overreacting. It wasn't that credible. So I think where we're kind of struggling is like in this same scenario, given that same information, would you have requested to erect that fence that night?
I can't, that's a chief of police decision.
Okay.
I can't speak.
And then even if we say, yeah, we're gonna do that, we put in the request, and then this consortium, they make that decision, and they base it off of what we tell them, right? They don't just say, well, we might have some violence down here today, we want the fence up. They're probably gonna ask what we need to most. And again, who is this consortium? Who sits on that body? Is that, and I'm sorry we didn't answer these questions earlier, but I mean, now, again, you have more time to digest. People start asking questions, you start thinking more. Is this members of the cities that are in it? They each have a representative, or who?
So it's just like it's any other typical board. It has its own bylaws that have been established, and its own set of rules that they establish. So and the board members are voted in.
Okay.
So I know that there is one person has to be a police chief, one person has to be a city manager, one person has to be public works, and then there's a couple other spots.
Okay, so it's not just, I'm the mayor of every city that's in it. It's people that have experience and knowledge, and that, if we put in that request, there's a potential that they could review it and say, we're not, this is, this is not something that meets the level of dispatch the fence, despite us maybe saying, hey, we've got credible evidence that there could potentially be this. They may have said, well, it doesn't meet our threshold.
Yep, and,
Okay.
but that goes back to the board of, is being, those board members being voted in. And if there are other further issues where other cities have been asking for fence and then certain board members are denying it, that those positions can change.
Sure. So in that case, if we were to, and again, we're speculating in hypotheticals, but had we asked and it got denied and then something did happen, I guess that's where maybe not necessarily the legality issues of we requested, but we weren't, it wasn't denied, it was because it was dispatched at another larger city. It was, nothing else was going on. There was an incident in Maplewood that had North St. Paul ties. We requested it, you denied it, and then look what happened. We had, broken windows and damage to our facility, and had you accepted our request, that could have prevented it. That's a whole different legal scenario, or is correct?
Mayor and council, I would say under the agreement, there's no guarantee. So you've signed up for them to make a decision that, may ultimately be a no. And there's also an indemnification provision in there that basically holds the directors harmless as well. So there is, built into it a certain amount of, well, there's certainly discretion for the board here, but there's also a certain just amount of uncertainty for the city.
Okay.
Good discussion, good questions. So we do have a motion out there. I believe it was first and seconded. So any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Nay.
Motion carries. Letter R. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Thorson.
Well, this is just kind of tying into that, and I think Ron answered the questions about, Public Works involvement. So that's why I just pulled the two, because maybe I wasn't sure if they weren't related, but after discussion, it's obviously they're related. Authorizing this gets us into that consortium, that's a part of it, correct? Okay.
So the motion would be authorizing the statewide Public Works Mutual Aid Pact.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carry, nay. Motion carries. And I think that's all of them. I'll turn it over to City Manager Brian Frandl.
Thank you. Just a quick update on our next student-built house at 2170 Eldridge. So we've had the shelter tech came out there, and they determined what had asbestos in it. It's been removed now. We have the inspection, pre-demo inspection set up for Ramsey County tomorrow. So that will be taken care of. Public Works has already cleared the lot of the trees that are out there. The actual address, it's going to be split. 2170 will stay with the lot that'll be furthest to the west. A new lot of 2172 will be to the east, and that's the house that they will do first, just because there's some grading that needs to be done along that side of the property. But that's where we're at. School started today, I believe, for the kids at the college, and so they're gonna be ready to go pretty soon. We have our 2 quotes in for the demo of the house, which would then also dig the hole for the basement of the first student-built home. So it's moving along. That's all I have.
Did they find the old outhouse in the back of the? Because that's usually one of the treasures, is to find the old outhouse, and then whatever's in the bottom there is
How about
usually
Jimmy Hoffa? Did they find Jimmy Hoffa?
Jimmy Hoffa or beer cans, or old beer cans,
Search continues? Okay.
coins. Okay, that's all you got? So, and congratulations on becoming the new city manager. Reports of council commissions and committees. Councilmember Cole.
Park and Rec had their meeting a couple weeks ago. There is a lingering question in a follow-up to whether the Postal Credit Union Park is a park or if it is just city-owned property. It was last left that legal would provide direction by doing title designation to see if it was how the title of the property reads. And the question came up stemming around signs. Does Park and Rec put signs up? Is that a city thing? That was why one of the big questions around that.
So I'm assuming that's going to go to the city attorney, and he'll do a little research.
Yep. What was that, which park was it again? I just want to make sure that it's
Well,
being,
we don't know if it's a park. That's, in lies the issue.
what do we call it?
It's called Postal Credit Union Park, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken, and it's in
No, that
North
was
St.
just,
Paul
that was
and,
just naming rights.
Yeah, the naming rights.
That was just naming
so
rights.
is it the North St. Paul Environmental Park?
Yes,
It's funded by
that had naming
the
rights
Postal
for
Credit
a
Union.
few years. It never got taken down.
It's the park, it's the parcel of land north of Target.
Okay.
Typically called the Target Pond back in the day.
I'll make sure we look into this and get you an answer.
Thank you. The Silver Lake, as it passed in the consent agenda tonight, Silver Lake Improvement Association is having a fundraiser this Saturday night. It's a wine tasting. It will run from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Cost is $10. It's going to be a beautiful night, 70, 72 degrees. Look forward to seeing everybody out. That's all I have.
Perfect. Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, so the Planning Commission had just met recently for their regular meeting on September 1st. And this was in discussion with, in regards to the Lilly Building. So there was a public hearing. I think about 3 residents came out and spoke their opinion. It ranged from don't like the height, and then it also ranged to I love the building, really excited for it. So I would also add that there was an amendment to the comp plan a little bit to increase, to create a density bonus for certain places in downtown. So should we have any other developers come and want to request beyond that, the current plan, then they have some flexibility, and we can also have some sort of agreement where if we are to grant a density bonus, the community or the city will benefit as well. And then, let's see, so that was approved, and then the next meeting will be for the Planning Commission the first Thursday of next month, and then the Arts and Culture Commission is meeting for tomorrow, and their discussion will be around the mural update. There's also discussion around Project Snowy, so there's just been a postponed, it's been postponed a little bit because of the manufacturer, so we're moving slowly on that, but I believe that there will be a Project Snowy for the parade, is the hope. That's all, thanks.
Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you. Minnesota Women in Government, we're working on a fall, organizing a fall event. I'm not quite sure when that's going to be. Business Association meeting will be, or luncheon will be next Tuesday, September 13th at noon at the American Legion, and the guest speakers are techie dudes. Techie dudes. That's all I have, thanks.
Councilmember Thorson.
I have nothing but to comment on the parks question for our attorney's office. I think it was stemming from a question that I brought up when we approved the plan, and how one map had it listed as, I don't know if it was an urban ecology center, environmental learning center, and then the other one called it a park. So I think maybe just looking at the updated park improvement plan and the wording on those maps may help. But yeah, if you need to do a title search, I hope it's not too extensive and long and costly for our city.
EDA, our next meeting is September 13th, which is next Tuesday at 3 p.m. And the POW MIA Parade for the Veterans Park is September 22nd. The guest speaker is Brigadier General John Silliman. He was with the Air Force, so he'll be our guest speaker. And it starts at 6:30 p.m., and we meet at the VFW in March, Candlelight March, and walk to Veterans Park. General business, Councilmember Cole.
Fall Roundup Parade is a week from Thursday. It'll be the 15th. Looking forward to seeing everybody out. I didn't know, Carrie, did you have any updates you wanted to, you're pointing at Terry?
I have one.
Perfect.
And as for the parade, we want to invite everyone to attend the annual Fall Roundup Parade on Thursday, September 15th at 6 p.m. Please note the parade is starting early this year to accommodate the many units attending this year. How many units are we at?
Wow.
You got to be kidding me.
It's an election year.
So we have 103 units, and I have been in, I don't know, hundreds of parades. And I think this is probably one of the top number of units. Do we have every politician that's going to be marching in it, or is it? Carrie, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Please watch the website and City e-News for information on road closures for the parade. We'd also want to extend a big thank you to the following North St. Paul businesses for their sponsorship support for the parade, and they are Burwald Roofing, WSB, Gary Insurance Center, Luther Auctions, Anchorview Apartments, Max Diner, the Sentinel Residence, T.A. Shifsky and Sons, North St. Paul VFW, the History Cruisers Car Show, and the Housing Hub. So we'd like a big shout out to them for being our parade sponsors. From that, anything else?
No, you stole my thunder.
Okay. I suppose I could have gave it to you.
Very nice job.
Councilmember Wong.
I have nothing, but welcome, Brian. Congratulations.
Councilmember Peterson.
I've got a couple things. Friday night is a car show, and the city of North St. Paul is sponsoring the evening. There's going to be the art cart, police simulator, and the dash plaques will be given out. So please come out and enjoy this on the city. It's always a good night, and it's a good family entertainment. Meet and greet candidates on September 28th for the new positions at 6 o'clock at the American Legion. The public is invited. Everyone will be able to talk about themselves and a bio and questions and answers. So make sure you attend that. I had the privilege to take a tour of the toy shelf and food shelf, and boy, what a gem. I hadn't been able to get down there. It's just like a store. There's a lot of dignity there. You know, and it felt really good, and the things that are offered in that toy shelf, it's like you're going to Target. So I have to thank Norma and her crew, Norma Worm, because without her, and the food shelf too, that was like going to a grocery store. And it was really nice.
Can I just add on to that?
Yes.
She would like to have the council down there, so
She did say that.
if we could maybe schedule a night, I don't know, either before the meeting, maybe say 4:30.
On a Tuesday, they're open on Tuesdays.
And go and have a tour of the toy shelf.
I think that
And
sounds good.
probably the food shelf. So if we can do that sooner than later, because I know Norma would love to see us there.
Show it off, yeah.
So I don't know if September 20th, if that works, 4:30, if everyone can make it, or, oh, you're not going to be here. So let's look at,
But please don't hold back on my,
I think October 4th, we're still in good weather.
Yeah,
So if we can do October 4th,
yeah.
and maybe Jenny, if you can make a note of that and invite the council, and we'll get a hold of, or if you can get a hold of Norma and say that the council would love to have a tour. And maybe the food shelf too, just a quick tour. Maybe 4:15.
So we can get back here in time? Okay.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Councilmember Thorson.
Appreciate the update on the student Bill's house. Not to sound like a broken record, but I think, you know, those types of discussions and other discussions we should be having as an HRA. So I would again request that we schedule an HRA meeting to discuss things like approving the plans of the next home and establishing a budget, things like that. I know there's been comments that we're just going to do the same house as before, but maybe I missed that meeting. But I thought that's something the HRA approves. So it would be nice if we could meet as an HRA to have discussions on those things, as well as get a recap, an official recap of the last home now that that's sold, and to go over all the costs and in-kind work and public works time and city staff time, et cetera.
I think it'd be good timing too, because I think you just signed the agreement, Brian. So it's a good time to do it. Is that all you have? Okay, I don't have anything other than what I had mentioned earlier, so unless there's something else anybody wants to add that forgot. If not, motion to adjourn.
So.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson, second by Councilmember Wong. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned, and welcome, Brian.